$14 million, let's call it. Take out the one-time items and some of the accounting issues, and you get that $472,000 compared to the loss of $256,000 in 2022, restated. Now, next slide. Here we go. Here are all the small little numbers, which is why I put those previous slides together so you don't have to look at it. If you want to look at our draft, I put all the financial statements into the link, which should be in the agenda. So if you go back home and look at it online, you can look at it. Total assets for the corporation at the end of 2023 was about $41.7 million. It's divided mostly into the operating fund. Reserve fund had $8 million, of which $5.2 million was in cash and $1 million were investments. You can also see, if you can squint, but I'll read you the number anyway. The reserve fund down in the middle of the middle column for reserve fund had long-term debt of about $4 million. Because of the assessment that was just passed, that's going to get eliminated probably by the end of the third quarter. Next slide. That's the balance sheet. Income statement. Again, this is a consolidating financial statement. It breaks out all of our three operating kind of funds, if you will, main funds: the operating fund, the reserve fund, and the capital improvement fund. As I just put into the operations, and I looked at that, but the reserve fund had revenue of $3.3 million. Capital improvement fund had revenue of $322,000. Revenue from the reserve fund basically comes from an allocation of your dues. The capital improvement fund has an allocation based on home sales, resales of existing homes. Some minor expenses, and then you can come down to the bottom line. Again, look at this online. I don't want to sit there and have you squint your eyes and look at these numbers. Next slide. So it's cash flows. You can see our cash started the year at $8.8 million on a consolidated basis, ended the year at $11.1 million. So we had almost $2.3 million in growth in cash. Most of that is coming from the reserve fund. Next slide. Also, we have consolidated balance sheets. For those who like to see the overall picture, combining those three operations together, you can see $41.7 million in assets in 23 versus $34 million in 2022. Liabilities, you can see we had $10.6 million in 2023 versus $5.1 million in 2022. Well, what happened? Basically, the debt for the Mountain View Golf Course loan. And then we have, as I call it, fund balances. That's another HOA accounting term for member equity. Next slide. Consolidated income statement. I don't think that was me. Consolidated income statement. Now, if you look at the expenses, that includes depreciation for all of them. We like to take that out because that's a non-cash accounting item. But it is included in here, and I don't have the specifics right now for each one for depreciation. But you can see excess of revenues over expenses on a consolidated basis, including operating reserves and CIF. It's about $2 million versus about a little under $1 million in 2022 and $3 million in 2021. Next slide, and the last slide, consolidated cash flows. You can see our cash ended with $11.1 million, up from $8.8 million at the end of 2022. A lot of that's sitting in the reserve fund with $5 million in cash. And that is it. Dan, sorry, Matt.
Campbell, thank you for that overview. At this time, I will adjourn our annual corporation meeting, and I will call to order our June Board of Directors meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our May 7th special board meeting. I need a motion.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion on those minutes from the board? Any discussion with our residents? Seeing none, I ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Charlie. Next order of business is approving the minutes of the May 29th board meeting. May I have a motion? And a second? Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the board on the May 29th minutes? Any discussion from our residents? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes for the May 29th board meeting, please say so by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Unanimous, Charlie. And we need to approve the minutes of the June 13th special assessment meeting minutes. May I have a motion? So moved. A second? Second. Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the June 13th special assessment meeting minutes. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from our residents? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, Charlie. Next item on our agenda is your monthly strategic plan update. This month you will receive an update from Mark Eckert, our treasurer, from Larry Santor, our assistant treasurer. Mark's going to be discussing financial stewardship, and Larry's going to be discussing the exceptional member experience goal.
I'll just sit down here if that's okay with everybody. If we could go put up the first slide, if you would. So just a reminder, the goal 3 from our strategic plan, which is financial stewardship, basically we will ensure the HOA finances are well managed by providing sufficient revenues to fund operations, facilities, depreciation, and provide the resources to achieve our mission. So that's the overall goal. So next slide. So basically there are, if you go back to the strategic plan, there are 7 basic goals associated with this. So I'm just going to go through and kind of review where we are. We did this 3 months ago. Some of these have changed, some of them have not too much, but I just wanted to kind of give you an update of where we are. So the first goal was basically to review our financial systems and budget process to achieve financial success. As you just heard, the audit has been completed successfully, which was obviously a very large goal. The Finance Subcommittee continues to evaluate investments and make recommendations to the board and to the treasurer. That's in process still. It's a continuing process. Create a cost-saving tracking document for Troon, for the Troon contract. That continues to be in process. It is getting close to being finalized. You can expect something to probably be presented sometime in the very near future. We don't have a board meeting, I think, next month, but probably early this fall you'll probably see something that gives you a financial summary of really the Troon agreement, which has benefited the HOA in many different ways, far exceeding the cost for the contract. So we'll be able to give you some details about that so you can see the results. So the credit card fee program, which was implemented March 1st, we've now got a few months of history under our belt on that. It has proven to be a nice cost saving, which is, of course, the reason it was implemented in the first place. We basically have saved about $15,000 in charges just in March and April based on what we've been able to measure. So it's going along just as the way we had kind of hoped to save the HOA quite a bit of money. So, and everybody seems to have jumped on board with the idea of being able to use their cards instead of credit cards. So. And the last goal, analysis of the financial report design is continuing. There's been some, I think, some good improvements that Terry's made on that so far that some of you have seen if you've come and seen the financial presentations. The design is quite a bit different from what it was a year or 2 years ago. We're continuing to try to improve the quality of it so it's more understandable and things like that. So. The second goal, which is develop an easy-to-read dashboard for reporting finances to the residents. Again, the staff and the committee are finalizing a list of KPIs, key performance indicators to track and be included in the report. And that's still an ongoing piece of work that's being worked on. Next slide. Did it just go out? No, I guess I'm on now. All right. I was off for a second. Sorry. The goal 3, annually update a rolling 5-year forecast for operating costs and revenue requirements. That is, again, something that is being worked on now. It is an inherent part of our budget process, which we're just getting into and will be working on throughout the fall. And so that is certainly a lot of work that's being done right now as part of the budget process. Number 4, maintain and annually review the reserve study to analyze all assets in the community to predict needed major repairs or replacements. There's quite a bit of work that's being done here. We talked the last time about the fact that we've created what we call a rolling reserve study, which is a living reserve study document. That is something that's constantly being updated every month to track as we buy things, recording the changes in cost, so that we have the most accurate estimates we can. Again, remember the reserve study is only done every 3 years, which means that most of those costs are actually done the year before that. So we were dealing with the 2022 reserve study, which reflects actually 2021 costs in many cases. That has proven to be a real challenge from an accuracy standpoint, given what occurred over these last few years. So this is the reason for having this living document that we're working with, and we've got a lot of work being done on that. So the reserve disposal asset list is being updated as needed. Again, it's a list of all of our assets. The 2025 reserve study request for proposal has been initiated, so we go out to 3 or 4 different companies. So we have to have the new reserve study done in 2025. We have to go out for quotes now so we can line up the supplier. That is in process. No decision has been made on that yet. We're still collecting quotations. So the monthly reserve CIF sheet is used to track costs versus budgets. Again, that's a sheet that I see on a regular basis that's put together by the staff, and it tracks every reserve item that we've got, the budget compared to the cost of what we actually are having to spend. It has not been a fun year from a standpoint of looking at what we have to spend compared to what was budgeted, because again, the budget many times was driven by numbers that were a number of years old. And as we mentioned earlier, we're trying to fix that system so we don't have to do that in the future and have more accurate estimates. But anyway, that is an active sheet that's always used. And we do have the 2024 road study, which has been received and is now being incorporated into our 5 and 10-year budget plans. So we do have much more accurate costs relative to the cost of roads compared to the previous study, which was a few years ago. Next slide. The next goal, number 5, is continue to provide monthly financial information to the members. Again, we are continuing to work at develop a summary analytics tab to be added to the financial reports for user reading. It's still under development. As you probably heard, the finance group has been enormously worked hard on the audit. A lot of other things have had to take back second place to that, and now it's complete. So, but this is still something that's going to be worked on, and we're continuing as a goal. So, number 6, establish a process for reviewing key performance indicators, KPIs, for revenue-generating amenities. Again, we're evaluating the food and beverage KPI recommendations. We hired Real Foods as our consultant. They've been very valuable, and so that's continuing to be finalized. That project is just about done. That contract's just about finished. Tracking the results of the food and beverage loyalty program. This is still something that we're struggling. We're still working on trying to determine how to measure the success of that. You get your $5 off for every $100 you spend at our restaurants. Measuring whether that has truly been a benefit or not is a real challenge from a financial measurement standpoint. We're still working on that. And really evaluating all department KPIs. So this is not limited to just the revenue-generating ones, but really all of our departments, the facilities, the CAM, the golf, the theater. The staff is working on creating that tool from an HR standpoint so that all those different departments can be measured with key performance indicators. Next slide. The last goal, produce and maintain a 10-year reserve forecast to include the future facilities master plan. This kind of relates very closely to number 3, which is the 5-year plan. They're really kind of joined at the hip. The facilities master plan task force has been created. They've had meetings. They're in process of doing their work. That is a task force that should hopefully be done with their job later this year, but it is in process. As everybody knows, we did successfully pass the $1,500 assessment and the plan, and that's being incorporated into the plans. And the reason for that, of course, is to pay off our golf loan. So, updating the costs from the 2024 road study is being incorporated into the plan. Again, there's some fairly substantial changes in road costs that we've experienced from a budget standpoint. So we're needing to take all of this new updated cost information and roll it into our budget process so that we have the most accurate forecast that we can for future years, including the roads, which the roads are our single biggest expense that we pretty much have along with CAM from a budget standpoint. And the 10-year reserve forecast is used for the 2025 budget development. Again, the 10-year, the 5-year, those are all kind of rolled together as all part of this 2025 budget development process that we are now in the process of working on. There will be a number of meetings that will be announced that you can join as a resident throughout the balance of the year. And the final vote is, I think, November 20th when the board actually approves the budget, but there are a series of meetings which you all are allowed to join if you choose to hear different parts of the budget process. So, and I think that is the summary.
Thank you, Mark. Larry, we'll take your report, sir.
Okay, now that everybody's heads are spinning, or it's working now. Are we working? Okay. Still can't hear me? Okay, now that your heads are spinning from all this financial stuff and all these things, let's talk about something good, okay? I get to do the exceptional experience, which goes hand in hand with the Fitness, Wellness, and Recreation Committee stuff. I call it the Fun Committee because, let's do the next slide. All right, what flips your switch? Obviously, the Saddlebrook lifestyle. Next slide. And what is that lifestyle? Well, you can read this. I'll read it with you. Combining our majestic natural beauty with a variety of amenities and activities in well-maintained facilities for the residents, and to provide an exceptional member experience, prioritize projects to add to or improve upon, which are the most important to our residents, and to provide opportunities for residents in all age categories living here. And that really came out on the thing that came out, that you folks all responded to back last September. Because we have a community here that is a little older than like communities in the 55 range. So as we get older, some of our experiences get limited, like you can't play tennis anymore, you can't golf anymore. So where do we go from here? So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to highlight some of the things that people don't think about a lot. First item, the library. Did you know that last year, well, in 2023, over 50,000 books came out of our library? That was a 6% increase from 2022. We have 2,150 registered homes to use the libraries, and I'm surprised that isn't higher. And it's operated by 77 volunteers. Doesn't cost you a cent. How about fitness classes? Right now we're offering around 40 classes a week, less holidays, and it'll slow down a little bit in the summer. But that is such a huge increase over what it has been. In 2023, there were 13,003 people that attended these classes. Just in the first 4 months of this year, there were 10,292. And you can take that out to the rest of the year. We're going to be close to 30,000 people using these classes. To me, that's a win-win. Our gal You know, Jeanette is doing such a great job over there. And so if you want to get into a class, they're getting more and more of them available. Let's talk food and beverage. And we all know about food and beverage. The food's getting better. The service is getting better. People are happier with it. It's not losing money like it used to do. That's a win. And it's something we can all take part of. How about patrol? We don't think too much about patrol. I see Dale sitting down here. They have added a series of safety seminars for elderly people. They are updating their emergency contact information. They're doing the weekly tip and our Monday message. The other thing is that we have a lot of seminars that go along during the year that you can sign up for, and they vary from every subject matter there is. And in fact, you know, you have the World War II Club that provides, on occasion, these great seminars and great speakers that come in and talk to us. So these are things that are available for our enjoyment. Our clubs, you know, we have over 275 active clubs right now, and 185 of them are registered. So there really is something for everyone. One of the big things that came up on the survey were walking areas. Right now, you can take Fido and go out on the golf course. Didn't have that before. We're also having the CAM committee, as they're doing their level 4 and 5 stuff, starting to look for and identify areas within the CAM area that could be turned into walking paths. Now, this is a long-term project because they're still trying to get the level 4 and 5 done with all the problems they found with things that haven't been touched for 20 years. But this is on the agenda, and they are identifying things, so we're looking forward to that. Next slide. Okay. Other activities. We're all aware of most of our activities and amenities, and, you know, look at it. You got golf. Everybody knows we got golf. Everybody knows we have tennis. We have pickleball. We have swimming. We have theater. We have workout rooms. We have softball, dog parks, spinning classes, and on and on and on. And I just wanted to highlight those that were kind of hidden, that we don't think about too much. And so let's go to the next slide and talk about an upcoming activity. So to increase the enjoyment of our residents, we are in the process of repurposing an unused set of pickleball courts into a cornhole facility. That'll be out this fall. Okay, so watch for it. This is another item that you can go do if you can't do tennis anymore. You know, if you can pick up a beanbag in your hand and give it a toss, this sport is for you. Next slide. Why do people live here in Saddlebrook? Well, it's not just the natural beauty or the active lifestyle and amenities. People move here, and this is one of the reasons why we moved here, was because the homes and surroundings are well maintained and we feel safe living here. And you can ask Dale about this. We have probably the lowest crime rate in Saddlebrook of all of southern Arizona. Quite a feat. So if you can't find something to flip your switch, you're not looking.
Thanks. Thanks, Larry. I can assure you that you have flipped my switch. I like enthusiasm and passion up here. We have to sell that to some of our colleagues. General manager's update is next. Ray Kuhn is subbing for Walter, who's on vacation this week.
All right, thank you, Matt. Good morning to everyone. I assure you I will be brief as we have a very long agenda. In recognition of Independence Day, I want to announce that the administration office will be closed Thursday in addition to the actual holiday on Friday. In addition, the Cholla Library at Mountain View will be open during the hours that the clubhouse is open. The fitness center will close at 3 p.m. on the 4th. The Preserve and Brook restaurants will have regular hours. the Mountain View Bar and Grill will be closed for our 4th of July festival. And I understand that the attendance for that festival is a little bit low at this point, so I would encourage you to come out and enjoy that 4th of July festival. Remember, independence is not guaranteed, so I would ask that you take your time and reflect on that a little bit sometime next week. Additionally, you heard about the audit. It is complete. The 2025 budget process is underway. CapEx is due to the Director of Finance by June 28th. That's this Friday. So get your CapEx requests in. Fitness, still getting regular requests for personal training. The number of class offerings are being reduced a bit due to the reduction in participation. Summer months, people are gone. Participation is a little bit lower, but still very active. And we are working on aqua class scheduling as a result of the Mountain View pool closure coming up this fall. Again, not this summer, this fall. So that's going to happen in September. Golf maintenance preserve is now closed for its annual aerification process. Moving along to patrol. Patrol has proposed a revised fine schedule for traffic-related violations approved by the Rules and Regs Committee, which will now be presented to the board for future consideration. Dale is also working on a line-of-sight survey for our intersections to make sure that we are safe with pulling onto major thoroughfares primarily, but really all of our intersections. So make sure that we have a clear view of traffic. And I'm going to end there with the general manager's update.
Thank you, Ray. Dale, thank you for taking that task on this line of sight audit. Really important for the community to enhance our safety, and tip of the cap to common area maintenance for their efforts last week to clean up the Desert Bluff Mountain View intersection to open up some of the views there. So I appreciate the rapid response to a request from concerned residents and where we're going to go in the future. So thank you to all of you. Next on our agenda is the project updates, and Ray and Mr. Bill are going to be talking about what's happening around the community.
Actually, I'm going to invite Michael is going to address just a few topics for common area, and Bill will address the facilities projects that are ongoing.
Good afternoon, or good morning, everybody. So if you want to go to the first slide. So drainage. The good news is that drainage is moving along really well. We finally got a good crew going, and they are entering in drainages that have not been taken care of for over 2 years. So we are rapidly getting the drainage issue corrected. They have been working tirelessly to make sure that all the drainage, so we don't have any major erosion problems, and the ones that we have improved upon seem to be working really well. I've looked at the one that we did on Desert Bluff, Mooncrest Court, and right behind the admin building. And there are some things we need to correct, but for the most part, it's working really well. Next slide. Common area 4, level 4 and 5, we are behind, I will admit. We are moving, and we're moving as rapidly as we can. We are back up in the preserves right now. We are working right around the preserve building. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that now we have a map of what common area has done for level 4 and 5 recently. What you will see is in the yellow, or the purple is what we did last year in 2023. The yellow is what we have done in 2024. The red is what we are doing this month. what we have accomplished this month. When you get online now, you will be able to see exactly what we have accomplished and where we're at. I do, however, please do not interrupt the crew. They are working with a heavy machinery, and we are scaring up a lot of rattlesnakes right now in the areas that they are working for. With that, I will turn it over to Bill.
Hold 1 second. Ray, would you share with the community what you shared with the Chairman's Committee this morning regarding your efforts to reinforce Michael's efforts?
Yes, thank you. So when we embarked on this level 4 and 5 endeavor, it's kind of new. Level 5 in particular is new to all of us, so it's not clear. It wasn't clear really how long it's going to take. We're really working in a jungle in some locations. So we combined level 4 and level 5, thinking about efficiencies, and as a result, I still believe that that's the right decision, but clearly we are behind in level 4 activity. So in lieu of that, we have taken an action to supplement the level 4 activity. We're going to continue with the level 4 and 5 that Michael's team is doing, but we're going to supplement just level 4. And we can do that. We have some headroom in our budget, so we're going to bring in a third-party contractor and in an attempt to catch up on level 4. So we've had a lot of resident input and concern over the fact that we're not getting to their level 4 areas in a timely manner. We agree, and we are addressing that and putting together a schedule to mitigate. That will be, we're going to review it tomorrow one more time, and then that will be published to the community.
Yeah, I just want, on behalf of the board, to express the appreciation of all of us for these extra efforts to deliver this service to the community. I get plenty of fan mail about level 4 maintenance, and so I want you to know the staff is working this issue aggressively. Thank you, Michael.
No problem.
Come on down, Bill.
For those of you that don't know, I'm Bill McGinn. I'm your Director of Operations and Facilities Maintenance. I handle basically the scope of your amenities, your pools, pickleball courts, all these buildings, lovely buildings that are going in. I have been here for about 2 months, and it has been quite a journey for these last 2 months, seeing how the operation works and looking to work on a lot of projects that I got going on. At any given time, I could be having my guys anywhere between 25 and 45 projects at one time around the facilities here. But I'm going to talk to you today about a couple that are underway and things that I basically got broken into. Starting first, we'll do with the Mountain View pool deck, which I learned a couple of lessons on. Just initiating the process. When I got here, it was the first project given to me, so I had 3 contractors come out, do a bid for me, and to give you some insight on that. I started getting the project. We had 3 different bids. The first bid was for about $48,000, and then I went to the next one, which was about $75,000, and then we had a third one, which was done prior to me getting here, which was roughly somewhere just over $90,000. I went through the process of talking to all the contractors. I'm a guy that's going to go apples to apples for you. I'm not going to have them bid something and add something and change something, because I need to know what the price is going to be. Some of you might say, glad you got rid of the $90,000. Some of you might say, why didn't we go with the $45,000? I went with the best contractor. Although I did like the $45,000 contractor, he wasn't really a pool deck guy. He was a concrete guy. So I was able to negotiate with the Pima Pool, who got the contract. I knocked them down to $64,000, which was roughly about $2,000 over our initial, what we predicted. So Pima Pool will start the deck on September 9th. I did this, arranging that. I actually have to go meet with them today. basically because I didn't want to ruin your summer. I decided I wanted to go ahead, push it back past Labor Day. It was probably about the best time to do it. Temperatures are right, the crew was available, and they'll be able to get it done between 50 and 60 days. So we should be back up and running by October 1st. I'm sorry, November 1st, October 31st. Thank you, Sean. So that's why I went with Pima Pool. We also have a contract on the same thing with the solar for the heat of the pool to help reduce gas costs. That one is a 3-day project. Basically, the interruption you're going to have there is a little bit of dust, a little bit of noise, and they'll be in and out. Right now, we're waiting on permits, and they will begin. I don't have to close the pool for that, but again, just be ready for the noise and things of that nature. Next slide, please. Along with this, I found out that I am responsible for a lot of the perimeter wall paintings. So I did the same process with them, and this time I found a contractor that I trusted from previous work experience. You'll see them out and about. Right now we're doing Unit 48. They started roughly June 10th, and they will continue through June 28th, which is this Friday. And I actually have a couple more walls that we are going to be doing. I'm in the process of getting those contracts. I actually was able to talk them down below our initiated bid, so I was pretty happy to use them, and they're doing an excellent job. I don't know if you've noticed them over there in 48. They're just right outside the softball field right now. They're doing the chip seal and primer and coat and doing a lot of the repairs in the cracks in the wall. So I hope they do a good job, because I think I will probably use them in the future, depending. But they're very responsive. They've showed every time. I think they're a quality contractor, and I think they're going to do a good job for us here. Next slide, please. Some of you may have noticed a ramp put out by the tennis courts going out to the car park. This was an issue that we had for safety. I'm a big proponent of safety. We actually had a survey done a couple of years ago, I think, Ray, where they went around and they did a lot of lifts, separations, tripping hazards throughout our community, both our public sidewalks. You probably see the little numbers on the corners of your sidewalks if you walk around and actually are looking down. So anything that's over basically 1.5 inches, I'm having to look at reserve funds, hopefully next year, to get them replaced. But we're also hiring them to grind them down so that we're trying to eliminate these trip hazards around here. It is a project that is in the works that I'm kind of proud of, because it's kind of working out really good for us. So you'll see a lot more of that work, but this was just one in particular that I thought really needed to be addressed real fast. We had 12 to 14-inch drop coming off that back, and I didn't want anybody to fall down and trip into the parking lot and get ran over or parked on. So we took care of that real quick for you. Mountain View Golf Course preparation, when they opened up, we spent a lot of time cleaning the back deck, prepping the golf shop, and making things ready for the grand opening, because I didn't want to feel like we didn't do anything while the shop was closed, and I didn't want you folks to go out there and see that nothing was getting done. I do a lot of that when we close something down. A good example will be when we close the pool down, you'll see more than just the deck getting redone. We'll be doing some touch-up paint, light repair, maybe some landscape repair, things of that nature. And I want to thank Michael Park for helping me out with the wall project, because every time I've asked him to clear a wall, he's done it, even though it wasn't in the scope of his level 4, level 5 maintenance. Thank you, Mike. So with that, I just got a survey. Can I have another minute? Yes. Okay, thank you. You yield the floor? Good, okay. I got a survey. Some of you filled it out. You looked at it. I know it wasn't a specific survey, but I had it returned to me yesterday. And it was what I was expecting. A lot of it is confusion of what I do, what my scope is for facilities operations. Again, I take care of the hard buildings. I don't take care of the roads. I don't take care of any of the landscape. And I say I mean my team. These guys are fantastic people, and I'm very proud of them. It's tough to come into a job and find people that actually know what they're doing. So with the survey, the biggest thing I got out of it, other than the fan mail, is that what you put it? Okay, the fan mail. I hear you. You need communication of the projects that are going on. My plan is to start adding to the weekly push and for the record, you will also see charts where I will be putting projects of what started, where we're at, when it's completed. I can't do it for everything. I'm not going to do it for light bulbs. I'm not going to do it for filter changes and stuff like that, but you will see the preventive maintenance list out there. The scope of what we do is enormous, even though you might just see the certain areas that you got. But think about all the buildings, the length of wall that we have around here, everything that we're responsible for to help this community be safe and functioning and be, you know, top end community. So we work really hard for you guys, and I hope you guys appreciate it.
Bill, this is all I have to say. You're making Ray Kuhn look awfully good. Okay, next on our agenda, Ray is going to provide to us a cornhole concept briefing. Last month, if you recall, for those that were here, Bob Andronowitz did a great presentation about the enthusiasm and passion and vision that he and the Cornhole Club have in bringing this capability to our community. We needed to get some coordination taken care of inside the staff, and we did that. And Ray is going to bring us up to speed on where we're at.
All right, thanks, Matt. So, as you know, we got here due to the fact that the Desert View tennis court and multi-purpose court were due for resurfacing. And the multi-purpose court previously had been used for pickleball, basketball, and volleyball. The truth of the matter is that I believe one person in particular used that facility for shooting basketball. There aren't many here that are playing full court basketball any longer. So that kind of hatched or launched the idea of, geez, what do we really want to do with this facility? And so the idea of the concept of cornhole came up. As Matt indicated, it was presented last board meeting, and there were some questions. So I'm going to address those questions now. First one, what is the current purpose of the multi-use court? Next slide, sorry. Next slide.
Hey, Ray, I don't mean to, back that up, Rick. Talk about the location of where all this is, just
Okay.
for, in case anybody doesn't know.
All right. So the multi-purpose court is in the top left corner of that photograph. The pool here in the center, and then the tennis courts on the right. Yeah, as indicated, that space just really hasn't been utilized very well, at least in the time that I've been here. So, again, the concept of something a bit more passive, the topic of cornhole came up, and as you know, it got a lot of enthusiasm. In fact, the club has been formed and we're well along. But as I said, there were some questions at the last board meeting. And so next slide, please. So what is the current purpose? We've already kind of covered that. The second question was, does the Cornhole Club initiative in any way affect the process to resurface the court? As I mentioned, this was in the reserve anyway. And the question really was, how do we want to repurpose it? Or what kind of surface and or lines would we want to place there? We don't want to place pickleball lines. They're not going to be, there's no pickleball planned to be played there. So there really is no impact. Third question, what agreement will exist between the HOA and the club that will allow for placement of the concrete boards on the court? The tool to give them use of the multi-court is a license agreement. And frankly, this is where the hiccup occurred. None of us really had discovered, at least, that this was a requirement. When we looked at some of the other activities here, like softball or pickleball, to have exclusive use of a facility, we have the process of a license agreement. That license agreement has been drawn up and has been signed by the pickleball club and our board president at this point.
Cornhole.
Cornhole, yes. Yeah, not pickleball. Go. Pickleball on the brain, sorry, cornhole. Doug Springer mentioned that there was a plan for basketball. What is it? Yes, so we are planning a basketball hoop at both Desert View and the Preserve in the parking lot, where it's out of the way of traffic, of course, but we are going to accommodate basketball. There would be no more volleyball or full court basketball. We must have written down the process for recognizing new clubs. Let's ensure we follow it. Again, the process will be followed by registering with the Lifestyle Office and signing a license agreement for facility use. That's all done. What are the implications to the HOA regarding the club's plan to borrow money? Is it allowed or prohibited? This process is following the pickleball example with agreement drafted by attorneys with similar language and has been signed by those lenders. What is the process associated with the board approving repurposing this court? The license agreement is the tool used to grant this. A recommendation will now be made to the board to proceed. We recommend allowing the Cornhole Club use.
You get plenty of help up here, Ray.
Thank you. We recommend allowing the Cornhole Club use of the multi-use court as specified in the license agreement provided to the board. That is the recommendation of staff.
Ray, thank you for that presentation.
I guess I get the good part, huh? I'm going to make a motion that we take Ray's recommendation to repurpose the old unused pickleball courts to be repurposed for use for a cornhole facility. Hallelujah.
I have a motion and a second to repurpose our multi-use court for the support of the Cornhole Club. Is there any discussion at the board? Any discussion from our residents? Okay. Well, we answered that question. Seeing no questions, I have a motion and a second to approve repurposing the multi-use course for the Cornhole Club. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passed unanimously. Thank you for Ray for your presentation, Larry and Sean. Next up on our agenda is our May financial update. I would like to welcome Terry Dempsey up to give us his report.
Good morning. So today we're going to do the May financial overview, and first slide is cash. Our operating cash at May was $4.1 million, which is $1.6 million less than it was in April. Reserve cash is $4.5 million, and CIF cash was $1.645 million. Combined cash is $10,347,000. We used $1.2 million during May net. Cash is lower in May and November due to timing of dues and the billings when the due billings go out. Excuse me. Okay, next. Okay, a lot of small numbers up there. But basically, May had a subsidy of $177,000. versus May of 2023, which had a net income of $4,000. Year-to-date has net income of $248,000 compared to 2023, which had net income of $809,000. In May 24, operating revenue was 1.7% better than May of 2023 and 2.2% better than it was year-to-date in May of 2023. Restaurants continue to perform strong. Restaurants had a subsidy of $53,000 for May 24, which is better than it was in May 23 by 22%, and year-to-date is better than last year by 75.7%. So keep going out there using the restaurants. That's really helping. Golf is still behind. Again, it's due to the Mountain View opening timing. Golf had a subsidy of $233,000 for May. Fitness is doing better than 2023 by 30%, so they're doing an excellent job there. Operating expenses are down from 2023 by 7.6%. For May and year-to-date, they are up 5.2%. There is, so everybody understands, there's a weekly overtime report that goes out that David sends out, and that helps directors keep track of their labor, and this in turn is helping keeping a lot of these expenses down, which is, our operating expenses are about, our labor is about 50% of what our operating expenses are, so keeping track of overtime is very helpful. Okay. Next, we're going to look at reserve expenditures. Reserve expenditures to date through May were $688,000, and the largest expenditures are from the roads and golf areas. As we know, the special assessment was passed and will be used to pay off that Mountain View loan for golf. Okay. Next. This shows F&B. Our F&B revenue in May was $296,000, which is 18% better than it was in May of 23. And year-to-date increase is 18.9%. So they're doing well, and especially for May, they seem to do doing very well. Okay. Prime costs are up from May of 23 due to the rise in the wages that we had. F&B year-to-date had a subsidy of $40,000, which is better than 23 by, again, 75%. That covers F&B. Next slide. F&B revenue, we're projecting $2.3 million for 2024, and Preserve is projected to reach $1.3 million in revenue. So quite a bit of increase over 2023. Okay, next slide. All right, cost of goods, I think this month is a little bit of an anomaly. Cost of goods for Mountain View for May were 39%, which is about 6 percentage points greater than what it normally would be, which is 33%. We are checking into the inventory to see if that caused the issue. Usually they're pretty steady. Preserve is up to 47%, which is adjusting for being low in April, which we knew was an inventory issue due to a new chef that we have there and the way he does things compared to the way we're used to seeing things done. So there's some discrepancies happening there that we're getting fixed. Their normal COGS for Preserve should be 44%, so quite a bit higher. Next. Golf results. Golf revenue for May was $333,000, and which is down 5% from May of 23. Year-to-date revenue was down 6% from 2023. Golf had a subsidy of $62,000, which is down from May of 23, which had net income of $70,000. Year-to-date is down from 2023. Mountain View didn't open its second set of 9 holes until June 8th, which has had a very positive response. So we're looking forward to June numbers to see how that looks. Next slide. And the dues allocation year-to-date May for $1,458 per rooftop, clockwise on the pie chart up there. Reserves were $460 per roof. Patrol was $42. Common area, $172. Facilities is $252. G&A is $365. G&A includes the front office staff, IT, marketing, accounting, and HR. Theater lifestyle was $3, and fitness $7, with golf coming in at $144. So that wraps up my report. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Terry. Next up, I'm going to invite Lee Lexell, our Golf Committee Chair, to come up. Lee is going to give you a report regarding a task force that was established by last year's president to, under our board goal of governance, we wanted to get our committees all aligned, organized the same way, and that starts with our charters. And so Dan asked Lee to take on the task of running this task force. Lee's going to tell you about his charter, what he was asked to do, who his committee members are, and what they've accomplished. And what he's really doing is briefing out their efforts to the board and to you all for the first time here today.
Thanks, Matt. Next slide, please. So as Matt said, this task force was created, and it was created with chairs of many of our committees. Ray Adams from Rules and Reg, Doug Springer from Fitness, Wellness, and Recreation, Bobby Freer, formerly from the ALC Committee, Campbell Cheney from Finance, Eileen Depka from CAM, Karen Brooks from the Unit Rep Committee, and myself was the leader. We were given a charter asking us to consider the following points: consistency in charter descriptions, authority of committees, number and term of members and chairs, number of members, ex officio number and term, homeowner requirements to join, goals, member approved by board, and rules of the road regarding committee members' use of social media. So that's what they asked us to look into. So the chairs, we got together quite a few times, and as far as consistency of charter descriptions, making sure key issues are always included, the task force produced for the board's inspection a boilerplate charter template. It addresses descriptions and issues that are likely common to all or most committees. These include the authority, purpose. You can read all the different things. So we put together a boilerplate. We jammed all of our charters into these to see that it works, so that anybody looking at a committee charter will see all the commonalities. Of course, there's not all common things. ALC, for instance, has many different things that we don't have. But it was able to work, and if we are ever going to form any new committees in the future, this template could be their starting point as well. That was the first thing we did, and that was the most important thing we did, I think, was get that thing together where we could all use it. Then all of the other items that they asked us to address, the authority of committees. Committee authority comes from the board of directors, just plain and simple. It's defined in the opening paragraph of each charter currently, and it certainly is defined in the opening paragraph of the charter template that we've done. Terms of members and chairs. The task force recommends no term member limits. As of right now, we don't have fully staffed all of our committees. The chairs thought that if they needed somebody to move on, that could be accomplished. We did think, though, that the chair term should be 1 year, renewable annually at the board's discretion. I'll have a separate slide about that later. Number of members, that we left that unspecified as a policy. Each committee could probably use different number of committee members. Let the specific committee charter determine that due to specific committee needs. So in our template, we just have a blank there for when that goes on. Ex officio number and term. Now, we had no policy recommended in that. What we believe is that the current chairs should decide along with their board liaison on particular usage and roles for past chairs and past members. Oftentimes, I know in my committee, I have a couple of non-voting members that we use that have specific knowledge that we can gain from them. Homeowner requirement to join. General and specific requirements are defined in the committee charter. Basically, the general requirement is you have to be a homeowner. Specific requirements then would fall committee by committee. Members approved by the board, that's specifically stated in the charter template and in all current charters, and we're going to be voting 3 new ones on today, later on. Goals. The committees would like to see our board goals for the specific committee as early as possible, January hopefully, so they can begin to work on them as soon as possible. And then committee generated goals should also be encouraged. For those of you that don't know, at the beginning of the year, the board gives us a list of goals that they'd like us to work on. And then they ask us to update them how we're doing on this list at all times. Currently, we also come up with our own things that we think would help the board in making their decisions and get those going there. And then lastly, rules of the road regarding member use of social media. We came up with a following statement that could be included in all charters and the template if this is what the board wants. We came up with this as committee chairs. We thought this could work for our committees if it was there, but we'll let the board decide whether they really want to have a social media policy at all. And this is committee members are prohibited from posting on social media regarding any committee business. Violations of this requirement may be considered grounds for dismissal. What we're most worried about as committee chairs was our members speaking out on social media and be given extra credit for being in the know or something because they are on a committee, and then that opinion be given more weight, and we're concerned about that thing. Now, we do have access to more information, and not being able to share that is also a problem, but I'm going to let the board decide whether they like that policy or not. Additionally, and this comes back to we came up with our own goals, the task force would like to provide all new chairpersons and onboarding documents to help ease that person into the new role. The documents are provided. We have a fax and we have a primer. When you get named a committee chair, there's a whole bunch of things that you don't know when you're a committee member or not a committee member, all little things like we have a meeting every morning before this meeting at 8 a.m. Just things like that. So we produce these fax and primers for them. Second one, and this is I think a fairly interesting one, per the strategic plan goal number 1, objective number 4. So in our strategic plan, add the word advisory to most committee names. The affected committee names would be golf, finance, CAM, FWR, unit rep, and employee appreciation. So the committees that are, and that's what we are as committees, are advisors to the board, at least those committees. So our golf committee would be the Golf Advisory Committee, which more accurately reflects what we do. We advise the board. Now, we left off ALC because they don't advise the board. They, enforce the ALC rules. We left out rules and regs for the same reason. And we left out the election committee because, they're there to oversee the use of our elections, not particularly be advisory. So we think this would clarify what a committee does within our community, and it's a strategic goal. So we'd like that. And then lastly, I talked about the chairperson's term. We think the chairperson should be, their annual term could be reviewed annually by the liaison and the board in December, and then recommended for removal or renewal. A slate of chairpersons then could be produced by the liaisons and the board in December to be voted on singularly or as a slate by the board each January. And why we thought this was good is this does help with board-to-board continuity. If we know who the chairs are, we can have, because the new board comes in January, but also it allows the new board a say on committee leadership. They could vote against some of these chairs at this time and start fresh. So those are our ideas for the board, for you guys to consider, and do with them as you will.
Well, Lee, first of all, thank you for your leadership. I think you've been at this about 8 or 9 months now. And I want to thank all of the committee chairs that, in spite of all the other things they're doing for the community, took the time to work through this problem set. So where we go from here is we're going to take the next 60 days. When I say we the board, we're going to take the next 60 days to digest this report. And we will come back in August and report out to you where we fall on the recommendations from this task force. This does give me a moment to talk about continuity of effort as far as governance in our community. The famous McMahon survey that we all participated in, governance took a thumping. And one of the things that we're trying to strengthen is our relationships with our committees, the interface with the staff, our communications with you all as members of the corporation. And so this year in January, we issued for the first time a board manual. In that board manual, we had all of the goals and objectives for the staff and for each of the committees. And we issued that to the committees in January. So we started off the year with a great deal of organizational alignment on where we were going to go. I can report to you that both the staff and the committees have embraced this idea of receiving goals and objectives and giving them a orientation for their work for the year. It has paid huge dividends for us as a board to receive the work. As a matter of fact, Ray's going to come up here in a second and talk about the work of the Rules and Regulations Committee and what it means for you all. So when Lee says in this policy he's asking the board to approve, it's to sustain what we did this year. And so year in and year out. Now what that means is this board is going to have to set the conditions for the 2025 board so they can run into January and hit the ground running. And so it's going to be an interesting experiment on how well we are implementing our strategic plan and all the subordinate actions that go down to both the staff and the committee levels. Again, thank you. Appreciate your work and your leadership.
Yeah, I do. That is why we really liked that January thing. It gave us laser focus to do what we needed to do. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your consideration.
Thanks, Lee.
Next up on our agenda is the Rules and Regulations Committee presentation that were presented by the Rules and Reg Chairman, Mr. Ray Adams.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I want to preface this brief presentation with the fact that one of the comments that the Rules committee gets regularly is, why can't we just have one set of rules for HOA 1 and HOA 2? And we hear it a lot. There are some solid reasons for that. One of those, of course, is because the CC&Rs that were written for each of those two associations differ markedly. In the instance of HOA 1, there's a considerable amount of latitude given to the association to do things that are constrained in our CC&Rs. And it creates an environment in which it's difficult to make rules exactly the same. So we are trying to get this done. We're trying to make sure that we're as similar as we could be given those circumstances. So both of the committees meet regularly, at least quarterly, to talk about common issues, things that are current, and what we might be able to do about revising the rules. There was just think them up. Okay, so a couple of months ago, we made a decision to look at the rules one more time with as objective a group as we could, and see if there were some things that we could change that might make those rules a little more similar. Next slide, please. So we formed a subcommittee. We put together 3 members from each of the committees. The chairs were deliberately not selected, so they did not participate in this examination. And they reviewed all the rules and resulted in a joint report, which we can make available if folks are interested. The results in general were that the language does differ. Depends on who drafted it and when, how long it's been around. But the intent is typically the same. We all have to handle the same sort of housekeeping issues, the things that come up from day to day, to try and keep the community well ordered and make sure that things are running on an even keel. There were some housekeeping changes. I'll go over those. They are relatively minor. The whole point of going through this process, though, was to try to remind the folks in the community that we do work with these folks. We're trying hard to make sure that we have the same sort of orientation, and where possible, we make the rules as similar as we can. So let me go through some of these changes. They're pretty simple. There's a guideline for appropriate use of the common areas and facilities. It was not mentioned that homeowners from Saddlebrook 1 are also included in this while they're on the premises of HOA 2. So we wanted to make this clear, as it is clear in HOA 1's rules, and this is a recommended change. Next slide. Common areas. Common areas are fairly complex. There's a lot of language around them in the CC&Rs. There's a lot of language around them in the law. We try to define things fairly simply, and if you refer to the CC&Rs, Article 1, you'll see that there's an extensive discussion of what a common area is, what it consists of. This is similar to what they've done with the rules in HOA 1, so we thought we'd include that as well. Next change. This is a legal issue, political activity. We are required by law to allow a certain amount of this sort of thing to happen, and the rule that is already in place is a pretty good reflection of that. We didn't include the fact that activity is only allowed from sunrise to sunset. Now, some of us want to put in 9 to 5, but as it turns out, that's actually the language in the law. So we repeated that, And that is also included in the HOA 1 rules. Next slide. We found that we didn't have a rule regarding poolside sound projection equipment, boombox rule, or these days, I guess, your iPhone turned on through a set of speakers. So we decided, as HOA 1 has, to add a rule that says that the use of electronic devices projecting sound is strictly prohibited at the main pools, unless that's approved by the general manager for the use of things like the classes that they do in the pool, that sort of thing. So that is a recommended change. And that's all I got. I want to tell you that the cooperation between HOA 1 and HOA 2 is very good at this committee level. We get along with one another. We're free to discuss things with one another. It's a much cleaner and a much more productive collaboration than most folks would realize. I would like to see a motion that would allow these changes to be considered by the community for a 21-day period from somebody on the board.
Matt, I make a motion that we approve a resident comment period for 21 days for these 4 changes to the rules and regs.
Great.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, and I have a second. Day review period by our members regarding these recommended changes. Any discussion at the board level?
I have a question for Ray.
Shoot.
Ray, in your 4th change, it says use electronic devices projecting sound at the main pool.
Right.
Where is the secondary pool?
I don't know. The language we included was from HOA 1. It said main pool. I know we had more than one main pool, so I put in a couple, all right? It isn't complicated. Okay, we'll do that.
And you'll make that,
I'll make that resident comment if you'd like.
you'll make that change prior to posting it
Sure.
for member review.
Sure.
Anything else from the board? Any comments from our members? Only one of us can run this meeting, Sean. You gotta let us stay over here.
That's okay. Mona Devine, Lot 100, Unit 45. On the sound projections, one thing we're starting to see is sound projection devices in the fitness room at the preserve, something to consider. I don't know if you would include it this time or consider including it or just wait to see if the comments come in. But it is an issue where some people are coming in, setting down the boombox, turning it on. Other people are trying to hear in their headphones or turning up the TV really loud. It's a very small area.
Well,
I
good.
don't know if there's a problem at Desert View because I haven't been there lately because of bad hip.
We haven't gotten any specific complaints, but it was.
Maybe clean it up if it's something that, I think it's something that's reasonable to control rather than let it get out of hand. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mona. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve a 21-day, what do we call that? Comment period for our residents. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, Charlie. Ray, thank you. Thanks to your team for their work. I'd like to piggyback on Ray's observation about the interface with HOA 1 and HOA 2 committee members. It also extends to the board. Actually, SPAC has just invited us, a couple of us from the board, to a meeting with the mayor of Oro Valley. So, partnership between HOA 1 and HOA 2 and the Public Affairs Commission, it's a joint commission, has really picked up momentum this year. And just recently, we had a meeting between our staff, our general manager, and the general manager of HOA 1. We're looking to establish a common landing page to connect both HOA's websites with a common landing page. So more to follow. There's a lot of conversation going on about other ideas to continue to build bridges back and forth between the two communities.
Matt, I'll just add that in addition to rules and regs, I know ALC has also been very active with HOA 1, meeting with their counterparts, trying to drive some commonality there as well. So both of those activities touch all of us as residents, both HOA 1 and HOA 2. So I applaud that work a lot for both committees and the work they've been doing in that area. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Next on our agenda, ALC guideline approval. Ms. Shawn.
I have to stand up. I'm too tired of sitting. Thank you. All right. The recommendation to approve the June 2024 ALC guidelines. This ALC guidelines is a living document. It will never be finalized as the scope of the ALC requirements for our community is constantly changing. The ALC worked on revising this document for over a year to improve and make our guidelines consistent. Under the expert guidance and direction of former ALC Chair Bobby Freer, the guidelines were substantially modified and shortened from 92 pages to 60. The content is easier for residents to read and understand. The format is clear and concise. Justin Bright Sandroff, graphic designer and marketing assistant, did an exceptional job of reformatting this document so that it can be changed and altered. The layout is professional and appealing to the reader. Thank you to both Bobby and Justin for their extraordinary effort. A 21-day comment period for residents to read and review the updated guidelines opened on May 30th. We had a total of 27 comments from HOA 2 residents. 5 of the comments were very positive in nature and congratulated the ALC on refining the guidelines. 2 of our residents shared their knowledge of grammar, which helped the final proofing. We were very, very grateful for that. 6 comments were questions to the ALC, not the guidelines, which Bruce Shapey, the ALC co-chair, has already responded. 2 of the comments were not ALC related and were sent to Rules and Regs, Chair Ray Adams, who has already responded to those 2 residents. 5 comments were about paint colors. The 3 comments about the distance between a new tree and existing walls. There were 3 comments about the distance between the new tree and the existing walls. Those comments were discussed at our ALC meeting last week and will continue to be discussed. We had the expert knowledge of one of our Saddlebrook Master Gardeners in the meeting to help ALC make the best decision concerning the distance from a tree to a wall. For now, we will leave the preferred distance at 8 feet from a new tree to a wall. We did add the note that the ALC is open to lesser distances for some trees as requested by a homeowner. The remaining 4 comments provided suggestions for various individual concerns that will be considered by the ALC in a future guideline update. Once approved, the June 2024 ALC guidelines will go into effect, be put on the HOA 2 ALC website, and printed hard copies will be kept in the administration office for distribution to homeowners upon request. I would like to ask my board colleagues to now approve the June 2024 ALC guidelines.
I have a motion to approve the new 2024 guidelines. Do I have a second? Chuck? Any discussion from board members? Any discussion from our members? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the 2024 ALC guidelines signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Please extend our appreciation to the ALC leadership and membership for their efforts over the past year to update that document. Okay, our last presentation. Let me introduce to you Dan Nordhill, who is the chairman of the Facility Master Plan Task Force that's been established to work with the McMahon Group. Dan volunteered to be a member on the task force, and McMahon Group fired me as the chairman and demanded somebody else, and Dan drew the short straw.
Larry, I gotta say, I like that photo. Right? That's where we live. So, I am Dan Nordhill, and I'm just going to give you a quick update. Next slide. I don't like to read slides, so I'm just going to read my notes. Our board's following a demonstrated, successful planning process to guide the community into the future. In prior meetings, you've heard about visions, goals, strategic plans, reserve studies. Developing a facilities master plan is just one of the next steps. Next slide. Board members invited community members like myself, representing a cross-section of our community, to participate in this task force. After meeting these members on the task force, I would say we all share a couple of similarities. We want our community to be successful, and we aren't afraid of a little work, although the work is starting to look bigger. Next slide. Meetings are designed to be interactive. With Glenn from the McMahon Group facilitating our conversations in an effort to draw out from the task force members' ideas, pursue further options, build on each other. Glenn described this as an iterative process intended to collectively reach a master plan for our community's facilities. So as interactive, meaning he goes away after he hears our input, comes back with some ideas, we build on it, maybe improve on it, maybe throw it away and say that's just really a bad idea. So the McMahon folks are going to participate for the first 2 hours of each of these meetings, and then they'll depart. At which time we'll have opportunity to sit with the community members who are also invited to the meeting. Our task force members are free. The McMahon folks cost us a little bit of money, so let's keep them on task and use the task force members to keep bringing ideas from the community into this process. Next slide. So our process started with the very first bullet point up here. The voice of the consumer. It's been collected multiple times over the last, 3-4 years. And then we can go in, so we're assessing the, 69, 70 page document that we most recently did back in September. But then we're going to go in and we're going to do the rest of this work, which concludes in the development of a plan that future boards can use going forward. It is a living document, and boards should refer to it as they make future decisions. So it's just an advisory document for the board. My hope is that in this document, the easy opportunities that we identify will get looked at sooner, while some of these larger, more complex opportunities or projects, they're likely 4 or 5 years away before we are going to be in a financial position to do anything with them. So there should be some low-hanging fruit, I hope, we'll see what the boards come back with. Next slide. Meetings are open to community members. So again, that fact that we pay for the McMahon Group, we'll keep them on task. The third hour is member engagement. I think of this task force a little bit like getting a map at AAA, which the members are interactively marking up this plan for driving vacation. This is my analogy. How are we going to get to where we want to go? What are we going to see along the way? How much time do we want to spend getting there? Are we willing to go backwards and forwards across our track? It's a travel plan, and it'll probably change along the way, but we got to start planning now, not the day before we hop in the car and leave. And I know that sounds simplistic, because basically every opportunity that we talk about is probably going to have a similar process to that. So really, if you think about it, we just went down to AAA and we just got a map of North America. And now we're talking about, so where do we want to go? Next slide, please. Our next meeting's July 16th. We have adjusted, if you went back, we have adjusted our locations so that we can incorporate more community participation. There will be a link to all the documents on the HOA2 website, the board website. And last slide. I do like that picture. All done.
Dan, thanks for your report. Things are moving forward nicely this morning. Denise, Sean, Dan, and I were in a teleconference 7 o'clock this morning with Glenn and Kevin from the McMahon Group, once and again ensuring that we have synchronization between their logic trains and ours as we work through this process with you all, the community. We have three people to approve for joining committees. Larry, you're going to ask us to approve the first one.
First of all, Doug Springer has been the chair of the FWR committee for probably since Saddlebrook became Saddlebrook. I don't know. But he's done a great job, and he's out of town right now. He flew the coop. He resigned at the last meeting, and so I move that Terry McCarthy be approved as chairman of the FWR committee effective immediately. Terry's been on the committee for years and has been filling in as the vice chair. Done a great job. Most of us all know him here, and unfortunately he can't stand, so I won't ask him to.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. I have a motion to approve Terry McCarthy as the FWR committee chair. Do I have a second? I have a second. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by members of the board? Any discussion from our residents? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Terry McCarthy as our McCarthy. I put something, I was choking over here, trying to suck on something so I don't. Approve Terry McCarthy as our FWR committee chairperson. Signify aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Charlie. Terry, are you here?
No, he's out of town. He's out of town. They
Okay.
all flew
Well,
the
you said
coop
something
through the
about
summer.
he couldn't stand. I didn't know if.
Yeah. Just said that.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute.
Anybody want to take the mic and run this outfit because it's getting more and more difficult?
Okay.
Larry, you got another one.
All right, well, the next one, if he couldn't pronounce McCarthy, I really feel sorry for him on this one. Paige Sasnick has been working on the committee for a long time, waiting for an opening. So one of the gals on the committee finally moved to HOA 1, so she left the committee and Paige is filling in. So I move that Paige Sasnick be approved as a member of the FWR committee effective immediately. Is Paige here?
No, she's golfing in St. Janet.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, she's gone too.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a motion, Larry. Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a second. I do have a second. So I have a motion and a second to approve Paige. Say it again. Senjenic, just the way it's spelled, as FWR committee member. Any board discussion? Member discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Paige for membership on the FWR committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's all everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I have the pleasure of nominating Mike Harris to the Golf Committee as a Golf Committee member. Mike has been showing up at quite a few meetings and is well involved in the Golf Committee work, and I know the committee is happy to have him. I again did not see him here today, but I didn't think he's playing golf. He's playing golf. So I'm going to nominate Mike Harris to the Golf Committee.
I have a motion to approve Mike Harris for membership on the Golf Committee. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from our members? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Mike Harris for membership on our Golf Committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Got them all, Charlie. Last thing I'll share with you are upcoming events. The next Facility Master Plan Task Force meeting will be on 16 July. There is a special Finance Committee open meeting where CapEx presentations will be made to that committee. That'll be on July 18th. And the next board meeting will not be until August. We are in recess like Congress through the month of July and will not reconvene again until the 28th of August. Donna Yon, are you here? I promised Donna that I would let you know that she's kind of an engine behind our Folds of Honor project. Each year we have a golf tournament, and last year we raised more than $40,000 for Folds of Honor. This is scholarships for the children or spouses of military personnel or law enforcement personnel injured or killed in the line of duty. And what Donna wanted me to express to the community today, to you all and to those watching at home, is that this year a new twist is going to be to pit the units against one another in a fundraising initiative in support of Folds of Honor. And so she'll be working with Karen Brooks in the unit rep committee to get this word out to all of our residents so we could maximize our support for Folds of Honor and those children. Having done my duty to Donna Yon, I will now adjourn our June board meeting and open it up for any homeowner comments.
I take it this is on. Janine Grippo, Unit 49, Lot 109. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. And the first time I heard about the Committee Policy Task Force was at the Finance Committee just recently. And I had not heard about this committee, this task force before. And then I heard Lee say he's been working at this for about 9 months. They got together a few times. Was there ever a posting for open meeting? for residents to come to those? Because I don't recall seeing those.
There was not, no.
Okay, so I'm concerned because open meetings are important. Then when I just heard Ray talk about the subcommittee, should that have been an open meeting where residents could have observed? The subcommittee of HOA 1, HOA 2 for rules and regulations?
Let me cut to the chase. All of our meetings should be open meetings.
Okay,
The difficult part of all of this is sometimes you're so busy being busy, you're not thinking about Janine and all the unit members that want to come and we have committee meetings every day, nobody shows up. And I will be honest, I've had for years now, and I screwed it up with the facility master plan, and I consider myself counseled about every other meeting because we have not emphasized this with our committee chairs.
I just wondering if there's one place on the website where I can find all these things that are going on that should be open meetings. Maybe Charlie can help us.
Yes, there is a calendar on the website. You can get to it a couple different places. It's the community calendar, and I update that every week, and it has all the committee meetings and where they're at.
But the subcommittees and the task force, are they going to be on that calendar?
They will be.
Janine, let me help you. This is part of government, and we're going to continue to evolve and grow here. Someday, we're going to meet every expectation of every resident. In the interim, this is a gap. We will address it at the next chairman's meeting, which we've never made open that I'm aware of. Oh, it's always open. Nobody ever comes. That's right. We will address this with all of our committee chairpersons at our next chairman's meeting in August. It will be an agenda item.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Mead. I'm in Unit 45, Lot 118, I think. I'm here to, let me start over. I know you're about to embark on the most important thing a board does, and that's select a GM. And I'm here to urge you to add some transparency to that process. As a little background of why I'm so committed to transparency, many decades ago, I hate to think of it that way, I led a therapy group when I was at the University of Illinois. It was founded by a well-known, nationally known psychologist. One of the features of that group was that if people wanted to join the group, they had to interview with the group. After the interview was done, the group discussed that candidate in front of the candidate. As a consequence, people had to confront a lot of things. But there was never anything that was bad about that. Nobody ever suffered anything. Even the people who were rejected found it to be a positive experience. So I'd like to urge you to consider opening your interviews with candidates to the members of the community. After all, we're the ones that pay a salary, and we're the ones that will suffer or benefit from the proper selection process. I know the issue of confidentiality is always brought up, but as far as I am aware, there's only a few real instances of legal confidentiality, such as when a priest is with a confessor, a lawyer with a client, a physician with a patient. I think most of the time it's just a smokescreen. I don't think there's anything wrong with opening everything up. After all, our most important selection process going on right now for president is a pretty open event. So
Thank you,
I'd like
Bill.
to urge you to do that.
We got it. Thank you. Appreciate the recommendation.
Claude Wise, 4859. Couple of quick questions. The walking, we've opened up the golf courses. Walking the fairways. The golf cart. Are bikers allowed to ride our bikes in those golf carts during the walking periods?
Dale says yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because the courses are beautiful and I like to ride my bike. Second, Matt, you mentioned something months ago, probably last year. I've been trying to go to many of these board meetings. This thing's been a real mess with everything that's been going on about the money, about the loan, about the golf courses, about how long it took Mountain View to be done. I've been here 2 years May. Pretty much the golf course goes, I'm not a golfer, or do I own a dog? But you mentioned early on that we had 100+ Saddlebrook golfers that pay Saddlebrook 1 fees there. Now that we have reopened Mountain View, because we're talking about $500,000, okay, do we have any inclination that these folks are coming back our way? So by doing what we've done to our golf course is not even getting our residents back home.
I can't answer for the 107 HOA 2 residents that buy their memberships at HOA 1. That's not why we renovated the golf course. The renovation of the golf course.
Well, you're the one that brought it up and said that because our golf courses, that we had 107 people playing up in Saddlebrook 1. I didn't bring it up. You did.
That's a fact. I'm
Okay,
not
so if
refuting
you're
the
not
fact.
worried about it, why did we do what we did?
Okay, now slow down.
No, you slow down, okay? You just said that you didn't care. But
Thank you very
You're the one
much.
that brought it up in the first place.
Thank you
not
very
me.
much. Your 2 minutes is up. Thank you.
That's a good way to get out.
They're not going to know till the next buying cycle, right?
What do you want to say?
Hi.
I was just
Hold
going
on,
to
Mike.
mention before you, well, he's leaving, but putting together, working on right now, a very aggressive rate card system for 2025. We understand the need to drive revenue. We understand the need to drive more rounds behind that. And we believe, I believe personally, that we have now a wonderful golf course in Mountain View. We've got a great golf course still in the preserve when it's overseeded. And I think we're going to start to see those homeowners start to come back and play their home golf course. And more importantly, when we have 300 houses that sell here in Saddlebrook every year, resale houses, that's between HOA 1 and HOA 2 combined, there's about 300. That means there's probably 100 new golfers that come to town every year. We want to be the attractive resource they want to play for their golf. And I can guarantee you this is high on the priority list of our management company, Troon. So you're going to see a lot more aggressive actions in that regard. Will it work? Will all 107 come home? I can't tell you that. But we're going to be very aggressive in that regard. I can assure you that, and we have stressed that with Troon, and that's their approach as well. So I think it's good news. We got a great golf course. The overseeded preserve is a great golf course for us throughout the year in the winter months. So I'm very excited about 2025. So anyway, that's a long answer to a short question, but sorry.
That's okay, thank you. I'm Nancy Teeter. I'm Unit 31, Lot 54. I'm also a unit rep for Unit 31. So first of all, it's some thank yous. And that is the professionalism of this dedicated bunch of people I've seen today, whether they're volunteers or paid, is just so impressive. The second thing is the results that you have given us, indicated by what we saw today in the presentations, is really encouraging. So thank you for all of that. I also, on a personal note, want to thank you for the work that got done and is being done on Terrace Wind to mitigate the water issue there. And not only for the work that's being done, but for the communication that I received so that I could pass it on to our residents of our unit. Communication is just so important to us. And then my question. and that is really related to the general manager. And I know that you can't disclose, because I'm a retired human resource manager, so I know you can't disclose past performance issues. So my question is, does the GM position have KPIs? And are those KPIs going to be available for candidates? And will we be able to see, like the other person suggested, their response to those KPIs, because we do pay their salaries. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I was waiting for somebody to bring up the general manager situation. I was confident. I'm sorry? Could we let me go ahead and talk so we can get out of here? Is the GM going to have KPIs? I certainly expect him to. Does he have them today? No. He has a lot of clear goals and objectives, and he and his staff have been busy working out this year on the KPIs. So let me report out to the entire community. The great majority of the community is going to get this via the video. And so I'm going to tell you the same thing I told the chairman earlier today. On 30 April, Dan Liniger and I met with Walter to discuss performance. It was a long conversation, and we went back from the inception. Dan was on the committee, on the board, I'm sorry, in 2022, when we went through 3 GMs. Damon resigned, we hired Jerry, Jerry departed, and we hired Walter. During that same year, we hired Invited to manage our golf operation. So golf was not going to be managed by the new GM. And because the new GM had no experience in managing golf, unbeknownst to any of us, it creates issues when you don't have one person managing everything. More importantly, we have the board involved in managing golf. We've got to get the board out of managing anything. We've got to get the board back to being the strategic body it's designed to be. During that meeting, at the conclusion of it, we had serious conversations about lines of operations in our community: tactical, operation, strategic, and political. Walter and his team, based on the evidence you saw today, are moving our community in a very positive direction. When you look at what has happened in CAM over the last year, fitness over the last year, the business results in F&B, I can go on and on and on. And one of the directors, when I advised the directors, why are we making a change? We're making a change because of the political and strategic concerns of the board. When you reflect back on what happened in 2022, we asked a person to take on this job that had no real experience supervising food and beverage and golf. Now, it's awfully difficult for me to scream and holler at people about how we're going to connect food and beverage and golf when we don't have a single person on this campus responsible for doing that. That's a strategic gap that we needed to fix. A year from now, we're going to stand in front of you as a board, and we're going to have to make a decision on whether or not we extend or we terminate the contract with Troon. If you're going to terminate a contract, and I'm not saying that the board will do that, you're going to have somebody running the operation that can manage golf. So as we were going down the strategic checklist of gaps in our community based on our work at the strategic level, these gaps presented themselves. And we had a very frank conversation with Walter about them, and he acknowledges them. On the 18th of June, I met first with the directors, along with Sean. I met with the directors to break the news to them. An hour later, we met with the majority of the employees in the theater. At the same time, we were launching a message to you, our members, on the decision that the board had made. We have hired a management company, Management Matters. The lead principal is Jeff Evans, who's going to find our chief operating officer. Yes, in our deliberations, this body considered management companies. As a matter of fact, when Dan was the president, we even interviewed one. We were trying to find the best way forward in looking at all the options about the future governance of our community. After deliberating the cost, benefit, and analysis associated with and control with giving our community to an outside company or having a chief operating officer responsible for the board, we selected the latter course of action for our community. The process that's going to unfold is currently Jeff and his company are out soliciting for applicants for our position. I know this week that one application was sent to Charlie directly, and I received a phone call on my wife's cell phone from another potential applicant that I had to orient in the right direction. There is interest in people coming to work in this community. Management Matters will produce a slate of 6 candidates that the board will interview via Zoom on 25 and 26 July. We're going to reduce that slate of 6 to 3. That final 3 will get on-site interviews here on 12, 13, and 14 August. Each candidate will get a tour of the community. Each candidate will meet with our department heads, and each candidate will participate in a 2-hour interview with the board. The goal is to have our new chief operating officer here on campus by mid-September. So there's the background on what's happened, how we got here, a little bit of the strategic thought that went into both the need to move on and the strategy which we would employ in moving on, and of course, the timeline associated with. So our responsibility to you, our fiduciary obligations, are to seek out expert advice. We selected Management Matters as one of 3 executive search firms that we brought in to compete for this business. Management Matters, KKW, which did our 2022 search, and Adamant Incorporated. We received proposals from all 3 of those search firms. We received the cost to do it. We received the guarantees to do it. The board weighed and measured that data and made the selection on Management Matters. So we competed this process, and we selected expert advice. In that process, we did have conversations about management companies versus the COO model. We discussed it. We decided. Any further questions on this matter that I can entertain? Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Maureen Borland, Unit 29, Lot 16. My question, Matt, is one of the qualifications that you're looking for in your candidate experience and ability to manage golf in case we do decide that we don't want to renew the Troon contract?
Yeah, great question. There's a long list of qualifications this candidate has got to fill. The ability to manage the entire community is a part of those requirements. So if you can think it up, it's a part of the job requirements. I will.
Matt, did I understand that there's a new, there's a title change? Because I
Yeah.
keep hearing,
Yeah, there's going to be a title change. Instead of a general manager, we're going to hire a chief operating officer.
okay, so does that encompass a little more? I guess I'm trying to understand the hierarchy of
Yeah,
what.
the hierarchy is exactly the same.
Okay,
He's going to be this person will be responsible for everything. Currently, Walter does not manage golf. The new person, he or she, will manage everything. Manage, lead, advise the board, all those things. Somebody with vast experience. The last thing I'll say on this subject, another question?
Rich Borland, Unit 29, Lot 16. So if we keep Troon, then Troon will report to the CEO?
Yes. We're going to get the board out of managing anything in this community.
Denise Anthony, Unit 50, Lot 51. Matt, thank you for sharing out the whole process, because we've had a lot of, everybody thinks, oh, they should do this and they should do that. And in particular, for sharing out the fact that you looked into a professional management company and discounted it. I think that's important for everyone to know. In Unit 50, we do employ a professional management company for the 79 villas. But probably like you ascertained in even the discussion, it is not the panacea, and nor is it the solution that we probably need. Because you're having outside control, you still have to have a board. And I think, we need a person that walks on water, obviously, to be the COO. But you made the right decision, I believe, from our experiences in 50. It helps with financial management and accounting and all of that. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the top COO we can find. And we need the LSM, large-scale management certification, because of the size of our HOA. But sharing out the whole process, Matt, the way you did, helps people to understand that it is a process and it's complex. So thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
I'm getting my steps in today.
Thank you, Dale.
Just a quick question about possibilities going forward. My name is Roger Beard, Unit 25, Lot 70. Quick question about possibilities going forward. With a COO, does that provide the possibility to outsource by function things like food and bar, camp maintenance, and so forth? Would that be considered?
I can't.
My question concerns the possibility of outsourcing other functions beyond Troon. Would it be possible to outsource by function, for example, food and bar or CAM?
Well,
and has that been considered? Yeah. Has that possibility been considered in the requirements that you're determining or using to select your candidate?
Our requirements for this job announcement are the community as it exists today. So we don't have any future maybe things in there. What we've done is we've presented our community as it is, the size that we are, the size of our budget, the experience that we expect our candidates to have, and all of that. So, Roger, what you're talking about that's downstream stuff. Another board can worry about. We got our hands full. If we haven't made it clear about how busy we are, we're extraordinarily busy. We've got to get through this next 90 to 120 days as effectively as we can. We have a lame duck general manager who had a employment contract with us. When we talked to him, where's my HR director? Yeah. When we talked to him on the 30th of April, by contract, his employment was to terminate in 30 days. He waived that. Walter has the character. He said, by the way, the board offered Walter the opportunity to stay, to remain an employee of our community. That was extended to Walter. After consideration and discussions with his spouse, he came back to us and he said, I will stay until the new COO arrives, at which time I will depart. His decision. Okay, I want you to know that. Waiving his employment contract provisions was to the benefit of our community. And because of the character of this man, he was willing to stay another 60 or 90 days or whatever was going to be required for us to get the new COO hired in here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate Walter and how proud I am of him for having the character that he's demonstrating. In the communique the board prepared and sent to you for your notification on this action, in the closing paragraph, I asked the residents of this community to let Walter know how much you as an individual member of this corporation appreciate his contributions to our community over the last 10 years. I would ask you all to do exactly that. Walter is not leaving us because of anything he's done in a negative fashion. Walter simply lacks the experience and the training to do everything the job requires. And if you talk to him, he will acknowledge that. Okay? Have I covered all the ground I need to cover? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Appreciate you being a member of the greatest community in Southern Arizona.